When my appendix bursts, my parents, my brother, and even my fiancé are all too busy celebrating my sister's birthday. I'm outside the operating room, frantically calling every family member I can think of to sign the consent form. But every call is either ignored or hung up on. After hanging up on me, my fiancé Joel Graham texts back. Sophie, stop being dramatic. It's Yvette's 18th birthday today. Whatever it is can wait until after the party. I quietly set my phone down and signed the consent form myself. It's the 99th time they've chosen Yvette Norton, my sister, over me. This time, I choose not to care. I'll stop letting their favoritism hurt me. Instead, I'll do everything they ask of me without complaint. They'll all think I've finally learned to be obedient, and they'll never realize that I'm preparing to leave them for good. I stayed in the hospital for 3 days, and for those 3 days, my phone stayed silent. I didn't receive a single call from my family. I didn't call anyone either. I didn't scroll through their Instagram feeds like I used to, trying to keep up with every little update in their lives. Instead, I just quietly rested in my hospital bed and dragged my weak body around for checkups and payments. Even on the day I was discharged, I didn't tell a soul. I simply packed my own things, endured the pain in my abdomen, and slowly made my way home. When I pushed the door open, the laughter inside the house abruptly stopped. Everyone was gathered in the living room. My fiancé Joel was sitting beside Yvette with his arm casually draped around her shoulders. The moment he saw me, he pulled his hand back and gave me an awkward smile. Sophie, you're back? Where have you been these past few days? My brother, Joshua Norton, let out a cold snort. Where else would she have gone to? She just didn't want to show up to Yvette's birthday party. She always has to ruin things for her since she can't stand seeing Vivi happy. I didn't say a word. I just headed straight for my room. Joshua seemed surprised that I didn't argue with him. Normally, whenever he accused me of being selfish, I would break down in tears and desperately defend myself. But this time I'd kept quiet. My mom rushed over to me with a glass of juice. Sophia, we were so busy with Vivi's birthday the other day that we missed your calls. Don't be mad at us, okay? She placed a glass of mango juice in my hand. Although my heart had long since stopped expecting anything, it still ached faintly. I was allergic to mangoes, but Yvette loved them. There was always mango-flavored food and drinks in the house because of that. But no matter how many times I reminded them, no one ever remembered that I couldn't have mangoes. I handed the glass back to Mom and quietly stepped back. I'm not mad. I'll just go to my room. Just as I turned around, a loud noise came from the living room. Dad abruptly stood up and slammed his hand on the table. He screamed, "Why have you been walking around with that sour face ever since you came in? Your mother already apologized and even gave you your favorite drink. What's with that attitude? It looks like we've spoiled you too much." My heart twisted, and even breathing hurt. Tears blurred my vision, but I still lifted the glass from Mom's hand and drank it all in one go. I then gently set the empty glass down and wiped away my tears. I calmly looked at Dad. Yvette's the one who likes mangoes. I'm allergic to them. But it doesn't matter, I already drank it all. Can I go to my room now? Sophia, why didn't you say something earlier if you were allergic to it? Who told you to drink it? You're so stubborn. Mom panicked and quickly patted my back. Dad looked embarrassed, but he still harshly replied, "You could have just explained yourself. You've always had that unlikable attitude. You're nothing like Vivi. She knows how to communicate." Yvette's voice drifted over from the couch. "Dad, don't say that about Sophia. You'll make her sad." She sounded gentle, but the smugness in her eyes was impossible to hide. Yvette had always used my dullness to highlight her perfection. No matter what it was, she loved comparing herself to me. She would only be satisfied when she got to trample me. I should have felt hurt, but my heart only felt numb. Even when faced with such humiliation, I felt no emotions anymore. "I'm sorry," I said. "It won't happen again." The moment the words left my mouth, everyone in the room stared at me in shock. My obedience caught everyone off guard. After a brief silence, Dad finally said, "That's more like it. We're family. There's nothing we can't talk about. I only say these things for your own good." "Yeah, I know." I obediently nodded with a numb smile fixed on my face. Upon seeing that I wasn't upset, they relaxed and returned to the living room with Yvette. I paused for a moment, then continued up the stairs toward my room. But just as I stepped onto the staircase, someone grabbed my wrist. Joel had come up beside me without my noticing. He leaned in close and whispered, "Are you really not angry?" His gentle tone made my eyes sting all over again. I felt a rush of grievance rise in my chest, but I could only shake my head. My throat tightened, and I couldn't utter a single word. Joel, however, looked relieved. "I knew you'd be the sensible one. You never get upset over the little things. Actually, there's something I wanted to talk to you about." He turned his head away, avoiding my eyes. "We should postpone the wedding next week. I promised your sister that I'd take her to see the northern lights at Aurora Bay once she turns 18. Now that her birthday's over, she won't stop begging me to keep my promise. So I thought, why not take the whole family along for a trip? What do you think? The invitations haven't gone out yet. It's just a wedding, so pushing it back a few days won't matter," he said with a faint smile and a hint of affection in his eyes. My heart went cold. The tears I had just shed out of gratitude suddenly felt ridiculous. After being abandoned 99 times, why would I still expect any love from them? When I didn't respond, Joel impatiently scratched his head. "Come on, sophomore Yvette's never been abroad before. It's her first time going somewhere that far. As her family, we should be there for her. Besides, you've never seen the northern lights either. Think of it as an early honeymoon. Sure, I replied. Joel blinked, taken aback. What did you say? I let out a long breath and calmly said, I agree to cancel the wedding. Cancel? No one's canceling anything. I said postpone. We can't just cancel the wedding, he corrected me with a frown on his face. I lowered my head. A faint, bitter smile tugged at my lips. Was there really a difference? As long as Yvette was around, she would never let our wedding happen. She couldn't stand me, and she coveted everything I had. I had known that since we were children. No matter how hard I fought, I could never win. My family's favoritism was her greatest weapon, and it was the reason she could keep me under her heel all these years. Now, even my fiancé had joined her side. My eyes burned, and a familiar itch started to spread across my skin. The mango juice was finally taking effect. I nodded lightly and turned to go upstairs. There was allergy medication in my room, and I needed to take them before the reaction got worse. Are you upset because I'm going to Aurora Bay with Joel? Yvette's voice came from behind me, dripping with false innocence. I ignored her and kept walking. Yvette had always been that way. Even if I did nothing, all she had to do was cry or pout in front of our family, and everyone would rush to defend her. Joshua was the first to lose his temper. That's enough, Soph. Didn't you hear Vivi talking to you? One moment, you say you're not angry, and at the next, you're giving everyone an attitude. Is this how you treat your family? I didn't answer him. Such baseless accusations had filled my entire childhood, and I'd long since learned to face them without showing any emotion. But just as I set foot on the second-floor landing, a sharp pain shot through my scalp. Someone had yanked my hair from behind. Joshua yanked my hair so hard that I stumbled down the stairs. Vivi's an adult now. You can't just ignore her feelings like you used to. I fell to the floor, and pain shot through both my knees. Joel frowned. Soph, I was the one who decided to delay the wedding. It had nothing to do with Yvette. If you're upset, take it out on me. Just don't make her feel bad. As I lay curled up on the floor, I couldn't tell whether the pain in my chest or in my knees hurt more. Don't be mad at Sophia, Yvette said, wiping the corners of her eyes. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have turned 18 so soon. If I had waited a little longer, then the trip wouldn't have clashed with her wedding. I caught the tiny smirk tugging at her lips. You're being ridiculous. You can't decide when you grow up. This happened because she picked the wrong date for her wedding. It's not because of you, Joshua snapped. He stared at me, irritation written all over his face. You love sulking, right? Fine. Stay here and sulk. Joshua grabbed me and shoved me into the storage room next to the stairs. I started to panic and fumbled for the handle, but I heard the click of a lock from the other side before I could reach for it. He had locked the door. Stay put, Joshua coldly said. You can come out when you've had the time to think about your actions. No. Please let me out. I'm allergic to mangoes. I need my medication. I screamed, but Joshua's voice was already fading as he pushed Yvette out the main door. I made a reservation at a seafood restaurant. It's almost time for our reservation, so we should leave soon, he said. But Sophia. She'll be fine. A few hours in there will teach her a lesson, Joshua replied. Yeah, she has such a bad temper. Locking her in there might be a good idea. I'll bring her some of her favorite shrimp later. Come on, Joel, Dad said. She'll be fine in there for a few hours. Instantly, terror surged through me. I pounded on the door with all my strength and screamed. I'm not mad anymore. I'll apologize to Yvette. I'll do anything. Just let me out. I can't breathe. I'll die if I don't take my medication. My voice cracked into a shrill plea, but no one answered. I crumpled to the floor. The itching spread from my back to my face, and soon, my throat began to close as well. Mom and Dad had seen me drink the mango juice. They knew I was allergic to it. But they forgot about me. They remembered Yvette's favorite seafood restaurant, but forgot that I had downed a glass of mango juice just 5 minutes ago. Desperation pushed me to my feet. I twisted the doorknob with all my might, but the door was locked from the outside and wouldn't budge. I frantically searched my pockets, but the phone I had been holding onto must have flown somewhere when Joshua had grabbed me. Soon, the rash spread all over my body. My face had swollen up from the reaction, and I could barely see through my eyes. Not to mention, breathing became difficult too. If I couldn't escape, I would die in the storage room. As I searched for something to break the lock, I finally spotted my phone that had been tossed to the corner. Overjoyed, I picked it up with trembling hands. However, neither my parents, my brother, nor Joel answered my calls. Suddenly, a message from Joshua popped up on the screen. Don't come to Aurora Bay with us. You'll make Yvette sad if you do. Tears spilled from the corners of my swollen eyes. I should have known better than to expect anything from them. In the end, I dialed for emergency services. Each second dragged on like a lifetime. My airway tightened, and breathing became a chore. I could barely hold on to direct the rescue team to my street. When the storage room door finally opened, everything went dark. The darkness didn't last forever, but the noise did. I drifted in and out of consciousness to the sound of splintering wood and heavy boots against the floorboards. There were voices, urgent, professional, and entirely unfamiliar. Female mid-20s. Anaphylaxis. Airway is compromised. Get the epinephrine now. I felt a cold rush in my arm, a sharp sting, and then the sensation of being lifted. The world was a blur of red and blue lights flashing against the neighbors' windows. As they wheeled me out of the house on a stretcher, I stared up at the night sky. It was beautiful, indifferent, and vast. I wondered if Joel and Yvette were looking at the same sky from the windows of the seafood restaurant, laughing over shrimp and wine, completely unaware that I was dying in the hallway they had walked through every day. "Stay with us, ma'am," a paramedic said, his face hovering above mine. He looked young, terrified. "Can you hear me?" Squeeze my hand. I tried. I really did. But my body felt like lead. The last thing I thought before the darkness swallowed me whole again was, I hope they keep the receipt for the wedding dress. I won't be needing it. When I woke up, the first thing I noticed was the smell. Sterile antiseptic and old coffee. The hospital. Again. My throat felt like I had swallowed a handful of razor blades. There was an 4 in my hand and a heart monitor beeping a steady, rhythmic cadence next to my ear. I turned my head slowly. The room was empty. The clock on the wall read 3 a.m. I had almost died. The doctor told me later that if the paramedics had arrived 5 minutes later, my throat would have closed completely. I had gone into severe anaphylactic shock. And yet, the plastic chair next to my bed was empty. I reached for the call button, not because I needed anything medical, but because the silence was deafening. A nurse bustled in a moment later. She was an older woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "You're awake," she said, checking my vitals. "You gave us quite a scare, honey. Do you remember what happened?" I nodded weakly. "Mangoes. You had a severe reaction. We found your medical history in the system from your appendectomy last week. It says clearly you have a severe allergy. Why on earth did you ingest it?" "My mother gave it to me," I rasped. The nurse's pen hovered over her clipboard. She looked at me, her expression hardening. "I see. Did anyone come?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "My family." The nurse hesitated. "We called the emergency contacts listed on your file. A Joshua Norton and a Joel Graham. Neither answered. We left voicemails. 3 in the morning. They were probably asleep. Or maybe they were still out celebrating Yvette's birthday, drunk on happiness and exclusion. "Can I have my phone?" I asked. She handed it to me from the bedside table. It was cracked, likely from when I dropped it or when the paramedics moved me, but it still worked. There were no missed calls. However, there were notifications. Instagram notifications. I opened the app. The first thing on my feed was a story posted by Yvette 4 hours ago. It was a video. The camera panned around a dimly lit, expensive restaurant table. There was a tower of seafood, bottles of champagne, and a cake with sparklers. "Make a wish, Vivi." My dad's voice boomed cheerfully. Yvette clasped her hands together, looking ethereal in a white dress, the kind of dress a bride might wear to a rehearsal dinner. Sitting next to her was Joel. He was looking at her with a softness he hadn't shown me in years. "I wish," Yvette said, looking directly into the camera lens with a playful wink, "that we can all be this happy forever. Just us." "Just us." Joshua cheered. Joel clinked his glass against hers. Mom kissed her cheek. I looked at the timestamp. This was posted at 8:30 p.m. At 8:30 p.m., I was clawing at the locked door of the storage room, gasping for air, my throat closing up while the mango juice my mother forced on me shut down my body. I didn't cry. I think I had cried all the tears I had left in that storage room. Instead, a cold, crystalline clarity washed over me. It wasn't just favoritism. It wasn't just neglect. It was attempted murder. Whether they intended for me to die or not didn't matter. Their negligence was so profound, so absolute, that it amounted to the same thing. They locked an allergic person in a room after feeding them the allergen and left the house. I took a screenshot of the video. Then I opened my text messages. I typed a message to Joshua. "I'm alive. The door will need fixing." Then I blocked him. I blocked Mom. I blocked Dad. I hovered over Joel's name. My fiancé. The man I had spent 5 years loving. The man who had promised to protect me. The man who was currently holding my sister's hand in a seafood restaurant while I lay in a hospital bed. I sent one final text to Joel. "The wedding is off. Enjoy the northern lights." Then I blocked him too. I discharged myself the next morning against medical advice. The doctor wanted to keep me for observation, but I had things to do, and I knew I was running on borrowed time before the family returned from their celebration. I took a taxi home. When I arrived, the front door of the house was boarded up with a piece of plywood where the lock used to be. The paramedics hadn't been gentle. Good. I walked inside. The house was silent. They weren't back yet. I didn't go to my room to cry. I went to my room to pack. I took 2 suitcases. I packed my clothes, my laptop, my passport, and the small box of jewelry my grandmother had left me. The only person in this family who had ever loved me, God rest her soul. I left everything Joel had bought me. The engagement ring sat on the nightstand, glittering and cold. I moved to the living room. I took the spare key to the old sedan my father let me drive, the one legally in my name because insurance was cheaper, and put it in my pocket. Then, I sat on the couch and waited. I didn't have to wait long. At 11 a.m., the front door rattled. What the hell happened to the door? Dad's voice boomed from outside. "It looks like someone kicked it in." "Maybe we were robbed," Mom shrieked. The plywood was shoved aside, and they spilled into the hallway. Dad, Mom, Joshua, Yvette, and Joel. They were all wearing the clothes from the night before, looking disheveled but happy, until they saw me. I was sitting on the sofa, dressed in fresh clothes, my suitcases standing like sentinels beside me. My face was still swollen, my eyes red-rimmed, but my posture was rigid. "Sophia?" Joel was the first to speak. He stepped forward, looking confused. What? What happened to your face? And the door? Oh my God, Mom gasped, putting a hand to her mouth. Did you have an allergy attack? An allergy attack? Joshua scoffed, stepping over the splintered wood. Look at the door. She probably threw a tantrum because we left her home and broke it herself to get attention. Yvette clung to Joel's arm, her eyes wide. Sophia, you scared us. Why is the door broken? I looked at them. Really looked at them. I saw the selfishness etched into Joshua's sneer, the willful ignorance in my mother's eyes, the spinelessness in Joel's slump. I called 911, I said. My voice was raspy, damaged from the swelling. The paramedics broke the door down to get me out because Joshua locked me in. Silence descended on the room. You called the police? Dad's face turned a violent shade of red. Are you insane? You brought emergency services to our house? What will the neighbors think? They probably think you tried to kill your daughter, I said calmly. Don't be dramatic, Joshua snapped, though he looked slightly pale. I locked you in there to cool off. I didn't know you were actually sick. You were faking it to ruin Vivi's night. I was in anaphylactic shock, I said. My throat closed. I passed out. I spent the night in the ER. Well, you're fine now, aren't you? Dad waved his hand dismissively. Look at you sitting there. You survived. But look at this mess. Who is going to pay for this door? I stood up. The movement made them flinch. I'm leaving, I said. Leaving? Mom blinked. Where are you going? We have the trip to Aurora Bay in 2 days. Joel paid for everyone. I looked at Joel. He couldn't meet my eyes. I'm not going to Aurora Bay, I said. And I'm not marrying Joel. Sophie, stop it, Joel said, stepping forward, his voice taking on that familiar, condescending tone. I saw your text. You're just emotional right now. We can talk about this upstairs. I know you're upset about the mango juice, but canceling the wedding is. I'm not upset about the juice, Joel. I cut him off. I'm upset that while I was dying, you were posting videos of you holding my sister's hand. Yvette gasped. We were just celebrating. You're so jealous, Sophia. You always make everything about you. It is about me, I said softly. It's about my life. And I'm done trusting any of you with it. I picked up the handles of my suitcases. If you walk out that door, Dad threatened, pointing a shaking finger at me. Don't you dare think about coming back. I won't have a daughter who calls the police on her own family. Don't worry, I said, walking past him. You don't have a daughter named Sophia anymore. You can't leave, Joshua shouted, moving to block my path. He looked ready to grab me again. You owe us. Who paid for your college? Who put a roof over your head? I stopped. I reached into my purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper, the receipt for the consent form I had signed myself, and the hospital bill I had paid this morning with my own savings. I paid, I said. I've been paying for everything for years. The rent on my apartment before you made me move back in? Me. My tuition? Loans and scholarships. This car. I held up the key. My name on the title. I owe you nothing. I looked Joshua in the eye. Get out of my way, or I will call the police again. And this time, I'll press charges for unlawful imprisonment and endangerment. Joshua hesitated. He saw something in my eyes he had never seen before. It wasn't fear. It wasn't sadness. It was the absolute absence of care. He stepped aside. I walked out the broken door, loaded my bags into the sedan, and started the engine. As I backed out of the driveway, I saw Joel standing on the porch, looking lost. Yvette was whispering something in his ear, probably comforting him, probably telling him I was crazy. I didn't look back. For the first month, I was a ghost. I drove 3 towns over, to a city where nobody knew the Norton family name. I rented a small, furnished studio apartment using the money I had been secretly saving for the wedding dress. Money Joel had claimed we needed to save for the honeymoon, but which I had kept in a separate account just in case. I got a new phone number. I deleted my social media accounts. I found a job as an administrative assistant at a logistics firm. It wasn't glamorous, and it was far below my qualifications, but it was quiet. I went to work, I came home, I ate food that didn't contain mangoes, and I slept. For the first time in my life, I slept through the night. I didn't wake up worrying if Yvette needed a ride, or if Mom was angry about the laundry, or if Joel was disappointed in my outfit. I was lonely, yes. But the loneliness was peaceful. It was safe. However, the past has a way of not staying buried. 3 weeks after I left, I was walking to my car after work when I saw a familiar figure leaning against my sedan. It was Joel. He looked thinner. His hair was messy, and he wasn't wearing his usual crisp button-down shirt. When he saw me, his face lit up with a mixture of relief and anger. Found you, he breathed. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I forced my feet to stay planted. How did you find me, Joel? It wasn't easy, he said, pushing off the car and walking toward me. You covered your tracks well. But your name is still on the car registration. Public records, sophomore. He stopped a few feet away, reaching out as if to touch me. I took a sharp step back. His hand dropped. Sophie, please. Come home. Everyone is worried sick. Are they? I asked dryly. Or do they just need someone to blame for their problems? Your mom has been crying every day, Joel said, his voice pleading. Yvette. Yvette feels terrible. She canceled the trip to Aurora Bay, because you weren't there. Liar, I said. Joel blinked. What? I said you're a liar. Yvette didn't cancel the trip. I checked the weather in Aurora Bay last week. There was a blizzard. Flights were grounded. That's why she didn't go. Joel's face flushed. He ran a hand through his hair. Okay, fine. But she is sad, sophomore. We all are. The wedding. We can't get the deposits back. Do you know how much money we're losing? I don't care, I said. How can you be so cold? Joel exploded, his nice guy mask slipping. We made a mistake. Okay. We messed up. We didn't know you were actually dying. We thought you were just being difficult like usual. Like usual? I laughed, a harsh, barking sound. When have I ever been difficult, Joel? When I worked 2 jobs to buy Yvette her first car. When I planned your mother's retirement party, because you forgot. When I let you push our wedding back 3 times because Yvette needed you for something. You're twisting things, he snapped. Look, just come back. We can fix this. Your dad is willing to forgive you for the police thing if you just apologize. I stared at him. The audacity was breathtaking. I'm not coming back, Joel. Not to the family, and definitely not to you. You don't mean that, he sneered. You love me. You've been following me around like a puppy since high school. You think you can do better? You think anyone else is going to put up with your baggage? I'd rather be alone for the rest of my life than spend one more day being your second choice, I said. I unlocked my car door. Get away from my car, Joel, or I'll call the police. And unlike my father, I think the cops in this town might actually listen to a woman who's being harassed by her ex. Joel stared at me, his jaw working. For a second, I thought he might hit me. He looked so much like Joshua in that moment. But he was a coward. He always had been. Fine, he spat. Rot here in this dump. But when you come crawling back, don't expect us to be waiting with open arms. That's exactly what I'm counting on, I said. I got in the car and locked the doors. Joel stood there watching me as I drove away. As I turned the corner, I saw him kick a trash can over in frustration. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It was truly over. 6 months passed. My life began to take shape. I was promoted at the logistics firm. My boss, a stern but fair woman named Elena, saw potential in me. She gave me lead on a major project managing supply chains for a tech startup. I bought new clothes. I cut my hair into a sharp bob. I started taking kickboxing classes. I was happy. Then I got the email. It was from a lawyer. Estate of Beatrice Norton. Beatrice Norton was my grandmother. My father's mother. She had passed away 4 years ago, leaving the family house and a substantial trust fund. However, the trust fund had always been controlled by my father as the executor. I opened the email, my hands trembling slightly. Dear Ms. Norton, per the stipulations of the late Beatrice Norton's will, a secondary clause has been triggered regarding the distribution of assets. Upon the 25th birthday of her youngest grandchild, or in the event of gross familial negligence, demonstrated by the primary executor, the trust is to be audited and redistributed directly to the beneficiaries. We have received information regarding a police report filed on date of my hospitalization, concerning an incident at the Norton residence. This incident has triggered a review of the executor's competency. Please contact our office immediately. I stared at the screen. Grandma B. Even from the grave, she was trying to protect me. I called the number. The lawyer, Mr. Henderson, explained the situation. Apparently, the police report regarding my unlawful imprisonment during a medical emergency, even though I hadn't pressed charges, had been flagged by the law firm managing the estate. Grandma B had hated how my father treated me. She had put a poison pill in the will. If my father was ever documented endangering a family member, he lost control of the money. What does this mean? I asked Mr. Henderson. It means, Ms. Norton, that the control of the family trust, approximately $4 million, is being removed from your father. The assets will be divided evenly between you, your brother, and your sister immediately. Your father will receive a stipend, but he no longer controls the capital. I sat back in my chair. $1.3 million. There is one more thing, Mr. Henderson said. Your grandmother left a specific property solely to you, held in a separate trust until you escaped that house. We deemed your change of address 6 months ago as fulfilling that condition. What property? A brownstone in the city, and her collection of vintage jewelry. I covered my mouth to stifle a sob. She knew. She had always known I would need a way out. Mr. Henderson, I said, do my parents know about this yet? They are being served the papers this afternoon. A dark, cold satisfaction curled in my gut. The fallout was nuclear. My father called me from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Voice message. You ungrateful witch. You stole my money. You went behind my back to the lawyers? After everything I did for you? I will sue you. I will leave you with nothing. He sounded drunk and scared. Without the trust fund, my parents couldn't afford their lifestyle. My mother couldn't afford her country club membership. Joshua couldn't afford his entrepreneurial ventures that always failed. And Yvette couldn't afford to be the princess. I didn't respond. Instead, I quit my job at the logistics firm. I moved into Grandma B.A.'s brownstone. It was beautiful, dusty, and filled with memories of the only person who had ever been kind to me. I used my inheritance to start my own business, a consultancy firm for crisis management. It seemed fitting. I knew a thing or two about surviving crises. A year went by. I was walking out of a coffee shop in the city when a woman grabbed my arm. Sophia? I turned. It was Yvette. She looked different. The designer clothes were gone. replaced by fast fashion that looked worn. Her hair wasn't perfectly styled. She looked tired. Yvette, I said, stepping back. I didn't feel fear anymore. I felt nothing. I almost didn't recognize you, she said, looking me up and down. You look expensive. I'm Busse, Yvette. What do you want? We need help, she blurted out. Tears welled up in her eyes, but this time they looked real. Dad drank through his stipend. Joshua got arrested for a DUI and legal fees drained Mom's savings. We're going to lose the house. And? I asked. And? It's our childhood home, Sophia. You have money now. We know you got the inheritance. You have to help us. Mom is sick. She's so stressed she can barely eat. Does she have a mango allergy? I asked calmly. Or is it just stress? Yvette flinched. That was a year ago. Can't you let it go? We're family. Family. I repeated the word, tasting the bitterness of it. Family doesn't lock you in a closet to die so they can eat shrimp. Family doesn't steal your fiancé. Joel left me, she whispered. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, once the money dried up, once Dad couldn't pay for the trips and the gifts, he said we weren't compatible. He tried to ask for your number, you know. I laughed. Of course he did. Yvette, I said, checking my watch. I have a meeting in 10 minutes. I'm going to give you some advice. Sell the house. Get a job. Stop waiting for someone to save you. You can't just walk away, she screamed, causing people on the street to turn and look. You're supposed to be the one who takes care of us. That's your job. I quit, I said. I turned and walked away. I hate you, she screamed after me. I hope you die alone. I paused and looked back at her one last time. She looked small, miserable, and pathetic standing on the street corner. I won't die alone, I said, loud enough for her to hear. Because I learned how to live with myself. You, Yvette? You need an audience to exist. And the show is over. I walked to my car, a sleek, new convertible that I had bought with my own money, and drove away. As I drove through the city, the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. It reminded me of the pictures of the northern lights I had once wanted to see. Maybe I would go there, by myself. I smiled. The pain in my abdomen was a distant memory. The scars on my heart had healed over, turning into armor. They had 99 chances to love me. They missed every single one. But that was okay, because for the first time in my life I chose me. And that was the only choice that mattered.